Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for being here. We have difficult ground to cover, and we're going to discuss some uncomfortable things. But I'd like to say at the outset that I have a personal conviction regarding our chairwoman's compassionate determination to seek a path forward. And I have faith that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle um, can can come together to move forward to find real solutions, despite the fact that we will have difficult conversations because it's a tough subject. There's a crisis on our southwest border with no end in sight. That's reality. The administration's campaign statements, coupled with what I believe to be an overzealous renunciation of the prior administration's border policies, which had proven to be effective ultimately. I believe these circumstances have invited this activity to our border. Specifically, the suspension of wall system construction was a major error. The Remain in Mexico policy should be reinstated. Asylum cooperative agreements should continued and enhanced. Some of these policies, coupled with the enabling of the catch and release practice, restricting immigration enforcement, and the refusal to equally apply Title 42 across the board, these decisions have exacerbated the crisis at the border. The Secretary of Homeland himself stated that we're on track to see the highest number of illegal crossings in over 20 years. However, no one in the current administration has stepped forward to really take a leadership role to deal with this crisis. The border coordinator is leaving after 3 months on a job. The vice president has yet to publicly engage at the border and visit the border. Secretary Mayorkas continues to, in my opinion, ignore legitimate information requests from this oversight body about the operational realities on the ground. Now, in good faith, perhaps they're working on it, but he has not provided many answers to the questions we've submitted. Last month, Customs and Border Protection encounters surpassed 172,000 at the southwest border. And we all know that that's a percentage of the actual crossings because we never touch 100%. That's reality. So the truth is the number was greater than 172,000 if you're looking for the number of actual illegal crossings. The administration continues to claim that single adults and family units are being expelled under Title 42 Public Health Emergency Authority. However, DHS's own statistics show this to be false. In March, only 60% were denied entry. Border Patrol facilities and temporary processing centers, the same ones used by the Trump administration, remain over capacity. My colleagues, respectfully, on the other side of the aisle, slammed conditions in 2019 and now referring to the same facilities under the Biden administration as more humane. May I argue that more crowded does not equal more humane? This is just another example of the incredible things that happen in the bizarre realm of D.C. This this subcommittee and the committee as a whole must have the courage to honestly engage and to find solutions because the American peoples see through political posturing. A new Washington Post ABC News poll shows that a majority of Americans disapprove of the Biden administration's handling of the situation at the southwest border. That's that's just reality. Less than 20% of the crossings make a credible fear claim. Now, this is important to note because that's the first step in the process for asylum at the land border. And this doesn't mean that Moore didn't seek it as a defense against removal later on, but we should not state or suggest that everyone at the border is seeking asylum because that's just not true. And we know that to be not true. We must push through the the political posturing and seek truth and resolution to these situations. The Biden administration decision to use prosecutorial discretion in the RGV sector, the Rio Grande Valley sector, Most people are not able to be immediately expelled or released en masse. Some without ever being entered into removal proceedings. Border Patrol agents on the ground told us and told me that the federal government has become the largest facilitator of human smuggling at the border. That's the perception of the boots on the ground largely when you talk to those guys. That their law enforcement mission has been transformed into facilitators of illegal crossings. That should be a wake up call for Congress, and we should work together again towards solutions. Another persistent issue at our border concerns the activities of TCOs, the cartels. Months old babies and toddlers don't just appear at the southwest border on their own. They're smuggled to our borders by by cartels who don't care about their safety or well-being, and they're not hydrated properly or fed properly, and if it or if the adult holding them is related to them, that's very much in question. TCOs, they only care about cash. The cartels are making American cash dollars hand over fist. There have been reports of smugglers throwing toddlers in the Rio Grande River to distract Border Patrol. We've all seen the footage of smugglers dropping toddlers over the wall. It's horrific what they're doing, and that's where we should be focused on how to combat these cartels, the pipeline that is feeding the illegal crossings into our southern border. The best practices of treating children at the border, we'll hear today, doesn't matter to the cartels. Every child they smuggle or use to distract from their loads of drugs and sex trafficking makes them more emboldened. Criminal cartels are profiting at an unprecedented level from this administration's policies. That's not to mean that my colleagues on this committee don't have compassionate hearts in the right place. I'm just saying we have to admit that this administration's policies are not working. We have to communicate with the Biden administration effectively and encourage real solutions. The decision not to expel unaccompanied minors is causing some parents to make the decision to self-separate. We've heard from Customs and Border Protection that they've encountered many adults claiming to be children at the border in hopes of not being expelled. I don't have to explain the dangers of putting unrelated adults in facilities with children. It's a recipe for disaster, and indeed it's happening. There are at least three facilities that house unaccompanied minors with serious outstanding allegations of misconduct just in the last month. One shuttered overnight with reports of children being forced in untenable positions with no toilets available. The administration's failure to properly address the border crisis endangers our republic. Bottom line, failure to take the decisive action will have an immeasurable and lasting consequence. Inaction in the name of political expediency is not acceptable. I know my chairwoman's heart is in the right place. I have faith we can come together. Madam Chairwoman, thank you for your consideration, and I yield.
Thank
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regarding legal immigration, legal residency, and the pathway to citizenship in America, let me say that our nation is a compassionate and generous country with arguably the most receptive and accessible immigration policies of any prominent sovereign nation anywhere in the world. Myself and my conservative colleagues, we encourage legal immigration, and we refer to the simple fact that America is a very generous nation. I challenge you to find another that is a prosperous world power with an immigration policy as receptive as our own. Ms. Reese, let's talk about some of the policy issues you have articulated regarding in your statement regarding immigration loopholes and policies that have led to the unprecedented volume of unaccompanied minors we're seeing at the southwest border right now. The Biden administration has announced plans to spend $4 billion of American treasure on foreign aid to address quote unquote root causes. But that still leaves us with the legal and policy gaps that you've laid out. In your opinion, what do we do first? I believe we should secure the border and end these policies that are pull factors. What do you advise Congress should be working on right now to address Flores and TVPRA loopholes?
Thank you. So the first thing that needs to be done is to stop the pull factors and stop putting children into the arms of smugglers and traffickers. And that comes about a few different ways. One is in TVPRA treating um, nationals from Mexico and Canada different than other countries. Even President Obama himself had asked that this loophole be fixed during the 2014 crisis that he and then Vice President Biden had fixed. In addition, changing the Flores ruling by a single U.S. District Court judge, where she declared that not only would accompanied children, in addition to unaccompanied children, be released, but they be released within 20 days. Everyone agrees that removal proceedings should happen more quickly. DHS has also shown that when aliens are detained during those removal proceedings, that a high percentage, 98% of those folks are removed if they're not eligible for relief. And so the Homeland Security Advisory Committee in 2019 had concluded that there was a gross inadequate amount of detention space for family units. And so that needs to be changed as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. I look forward to speaking with you further about it. I introduced legislation last week to finish the sections of the wall system that were already appropriated for or obligated prior to the Biden administration's suspension of construction. Would you share with America if you recognize the legitimate deterrence of a 21st century wall system and the completion of those sections, how important it are? These sections have been requested by Customs and Border Protection and Border Patrol. You support that legislation, and do you recognize a wall as a deterrent?
The planned wall construction should be completed. Border Patrol agents have long said they need three things. They need personnel, they need technology, and they need infrastructure. And the wall system, it's not just the wall, it's the access road, it's the cameras, the sensors, et cetera, is a key part of that. It buys them time, it gives them awareness of what's happening on the border. Congress has appropriated that money, and so it should be completed as planned.
I agree. Madam Chair, I can't see the clock right now. How much
23
time I have
seconds.
remaining? I have one further question for Ms.
23
Reese. Ms.
seconds.
Reese, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Reese, would you address the accusations that the Trump administration essentially dismantled the asylum system?
Well,
I don't believe that's accurate.
it's incorrect. I mean, if you measure asylum in terms of grants, the Trump administration granted more asylum cases in its first 3 years than the highest 4 years during the Obama administration of an 8-year term, 2 terms. What the Trump administration went after was fraud in asylum and fraudulently using the generous program of asylum to come to the U.S. and to remain here indefinitely.
Exactly. Thank you for that clarification, Madam Chair. Thank you for your consideration. I yield.
Thank you.